Hello and welcome to the STL Hattrick St. Louis Cardinals podcast. This is your host, Stephen McNeil. I am joined by Brian Swope and Erik Neff as usual. Sorry for our lack of podcasting, but we are back and ready to talk St. Louis Cardinals baseball with you. We're going to talk quite a bit this night, so let's go ahead and get started. Brian, why don't you go ahead and tell us what's on your mind?
Oh man, this team it's killing me, man. I am getting so frustrated right now. We went through that stretch of games against cellar dweller teams in their divisions, and how we came away 4-5 in a 9-game stretch against those teams is just mind boggling. It's just another example of we're just not good enough. And, at the beginning of the season, it really looked like we had the makings of a good team, like we were really going to make a strong push for the playoffs. But yet again, here we are, year 3 of this thing where it looks like we're going to miss the playoffs once again. And going into now, you're talking about a series of games where we're facing all division winners. I mean, what else should we expect? I mean, Stephen, you and I talked a little bit last week, when we had a chance to sit down and talk a little bit about, what we expected for the Cubs series. And, we said worst case scenario was a sweep, but man, they almost did it. They almost swept us out of our own building. And if I'm the Cardinals right now, I'm hanging my head in embarrassment because this is just it's been ridiculous. And now tonight we've got, last I checked, it was 11-2 Brewers, and it's just goodness gracious, we're tanking right now. I don't know if we're trying to get high draft picks and do the Cub method or what, but something's not working.
Yeah, Brian, Erik over here. By the way, you summed it up pretty perfectly. It's a disaster right now on all fronts. All the positive things we enjoyed talking about the first few weeks of the season have kind of just blown up in our faces. It almost seems like everything that we personally talked about here at Hat Trick, aside from Jordan Hicks, has blown up in our faces. Like we have somehow willed this disaster to happen here at Hat Trick. I don't know how with our devil magic, we did it, but we're losing, like as Brian said, right now 11-2 to a division opponent. You lose a few that I feel you should have won in the last week. You lose 4 of 5 series straight. I mean, it's pretty ugly right now on all fronts, and that includes starting pitching with injuries and underperformance the last few weeks out of guys that we're not used to seeing the underperformance out of. An obvious problem we've talked about all season is we cannot consistently hit. Our defense is the same story as it has been the last few years, lacking fundamentals and effort, and not Cardinal defense, not the Cardinal defense that I've always known. Even on those '90s teams when I was a kid and we were bad, we were pretty solid defensively. We were always pretty solid defensively, even when having rough goes. So we just aren't ourselves. I think that it's time for a change, a shakeup of some sort, whether that be via the trade or maybe it's time for some heads to roll. Maybe it's time for Mo to make some moves. Maybe it's time for Mo to move on. To be honest, I need to see something. I need to see, as you said a second ago, Brian, are we? I don't think we're intentionally tanking here, but it could definitely be perceived as tanking the way we've played the last few weeks with the lackadaisical play and just the inconsistency across the board. So, a lot to talk about tonight, as you said, Stephen. There's it may be time to let the kids play. It may be time to make a move, but yeah, I'm ready to get into it. So
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's frustrating. As a Cardinals fan, you kind of expect the team to do well. You're in, you're out. We have these expectations that you fight for a playoff spot every time you're out there. Every season is an opportunity to make the playoffs and win a World Series for the Cardinals. And so seeing this team struggle sucks. It absolutely does. Just, I've been a fairly positive fan. I've been very optimistic about this season, but this team right now is giving me very little to be optimistic and positive about. They at the same time, you look at it, from a positive standpoint, you almost kind of look at it and see, okay, yeah, um, a run here or there, they could have easily have swept the Phillies. Um, but the Phillies are right there with you, neck and neck in terms of where they are in standings. You should have swept that series handily. If you're a good team, you should have swept that series handily. You shouldn't have been struggling to even get one game out of the series. You should have swept the series handily, and you didn't. You didn't take advantage of the opportunities that lied. You left men on base. Ozuna went 0 for the series almost, and so it's a frustrating thing because you look at it on a individual level. You're like, all right, Ozuna's doing well. You got Carpenter hitting. You got Pham hitting, but they're hitting at different times. And so, like, Ozuna does well during the Cubs series and the series beforehand, and then Pham starts to heat up, and Ozuna's nowhere to be found. Can this office please put in a complete effort throughout an entire series, every single player? Please, let's stop this lackadaisical no offense nonsense. Like, that is why we got Ozuna, is so that this team didn't have a hole, didn't have the issue where one bat goes cold and the entire lineup goes cold, and so it's frustrating to see us in this point. But when I take a look from the outside and to go back on what you're talking about, Erik, is maybe John Mozeliak needs to go through it. In my opinion, he's the most secure person in the entire organization outside of either of the two duets. I think Matheny has some potential to lose his job. I think John Mabry has some potential to lose his job. I was telling Brian last week that it seems like Mabry will probably be the first one to go. I can't imagine them going to the team before Mabry. Mabry is definitely going to be the first one to go. They're not getting. I can't foresee them getting rid of anybody on the coaching staff other than John Mabry at this point. You just got Okendo back. Obviously, he's not going anywhere unless you want an absolute outroar, absolute panic at stadium. That would be the stupidest PR move ever. And Willie McGee and these guys, they're not going anywhere. Schilt's not going anywhere. The guys that you just hired on for the season, Mike Maddox, isn't going anywhere. The only guy left there that has the potential, in my opinion, to lose his job, John Mabry or Mike Matheny. And here we are. We are June 21st. And the team is just barely a couple of games over 500. It's time. It is time. It's getting old. It's getting old fast. I think the number one thing for me this past week is that Mike Matheny was the linchpin to signing Greg Holland. How crazy is that? Why is the manager who has trouble on his own managing a bullpen, why is he having any say on roster decisions? Absolutely insane. I get the 13 or whatever, the 12 to 13 pitcher thing. I get it. I understand that. But having the say on whether or not you sign somebody, that's no. Like, you don't get to say that. You go win yourself a couple World Series championships, and then maybe we'll let you have a say in the roster.
Agreed.
Yeah. That totally should have been the GM's deal there. I mean,
that's Gershon and Mozeliak and DeWitt in the scouting department. Mike Matheny is not a scout. Mike Matheny is not a personnel decision maker.
He's barely a manager.
Yeah, just barely by this much.
That's my rant of the week right there.
Well, yeah, Stephen, I think you're absolutely right. And what's frustrating about that is you look at the team, and I've said this before, you look at the team that they inherited, and it's just gotten worse year after year. And it's time to make some changes. And, I'm not one to just, throw the baby out with the bathwater and just scrap the entire team. I still think the team has potential, but I think we've got to make some moves. The defense has to get better. The offense has to get better. The bullpen has to get better. And we need a new manager and hitting coach. Those are the moves that I would make. And I think that it's easy to make those moves. For me, the first thing I would do is I would get rid of Mabry and, maybe see if Jim Edmonds is interested in being a hitting coach. I think he'd be fantastic for the job. Then I would get rid of Matheny and I would install Okendo as the manager, let him run the team. I think he would do a lot better job of it. I think your bullpen help is already there. We've got the arms in the minors. Give these guys a chance. Let them play. And if you want to really shake things up, let's make some trades. Let's go out and get a guy like Moustakas, or get a guy like Abreu from the White Sox. Do something, anything that's going to improve the offense. I think a lot of improvement from the offense is going to come with Mabry being gone. And I think that seems to be the common theme that we keep coming back to here at Hat Trick is there's a problem with the offense, and it starts, begins and ends with Mabry. So maybe that's the first thing we do. And if that begins to fix things, great. But I still think there's a lot more beyond just that's going to have to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So with moving on kind of away from that, and we can sit here and we can talk about Matheny all night. Eric, I know you were getting ready to say something.
No, I was going to rip Mabry. I was going to go after Mabry, but I get what you're saying. Go ahead.
We could call for both of their heads all night long and just have a Matheny Mabry hater podcast.
We should do that. That's not a bad idea. We should do it next week. All Mabry and Matheny solid hour.
Yeah, but I think I want to take things in a different direction here, and I want to be pragmatic about things and be rational. And one of the things that I've been a big I'm a huge fan of John Mozeliak, and anybody who knows me knows my take on Cardinals baseball will know that. I will pull no punches in defending John Mozeliak. I think he is the best general manager, team president in the league. I think he's better than Epstein. I think he's better than Lunau. I think he's very, very good at his job. I have been a big proponent in saying that there's not a single player out there that was acquired via trade or free agency this past 4 years that would have really made a difference in this team. And getting into that again, that the real problem lies on the bench. But I want to give you guys a chance to tell me one player, just pick one player via trade during the season that you feel like would make a difference and is a logical, rational move for the team.
Eric, I'll let you go first on this one.
All right, I'll take it. I'm not gonna fall for the Machado, Moustakas, big slugger bait here like everyone wants. I'm not gonna do it. I actually have some notes that I wrote down before this because I wanted to mention this, and that is I would be on the phone with San Diego and I would be trying to get Brad Hand. We need a lefty out of this bullpen. We are terrible. I mean, Cecil and Lyons obviously not getting it done. I actually think Brett Cecil's the worst deal that John Mozeliak maybe has ever made. And I am also a Mo supporter, maybe not to the extent that you are, Stephen, but I do support Mo for the most part. I think he's been pretty decent on trades and acquisitions. I've liked Mo. I wasn't a fan of the Cecil deal when it happened, and of course that it's went way downhill since. Lions, we expected big things this year. I thought Lions would have a good season this year, and it just hasn't happened. Gomer coming up, I really thought I'd see something from that breaking ball of Gomer against major league hitting, and I'm really not seeing it. They're not swinging it. They're not swinging at it, and it's in the dirt quite a bit. And in Memphis, I noticed it was as well. The minor league hitters, they fall for it a lot. They see it coming. It looks like it's going to be down the middle. It ends up low and away. They fall for it. Major league hitters don't seem to be falling for that pitch, and that is his bread and butter. So that leaves us with zero lefties out of the pit with those three guys. I mean, I'd pick Gomer up the three. I'd keep him, and I would try to get Brad Hand. What Brad Hand's done out of the bullpen in San Diego is no joke the last couple of years. I wouldn't insert him as closer like he is in San Diego. I'd stick with what we've got in the ninth. I'd actually go with Hicks before I'd go with putting Hand in the ninth if we got him. But Hicks would be, or Hand rather, would be another gap between 7 and 9 that I believe is attainable, that you wouldn't have to give up the farm to get, and that really helps this team because a close to a 5 bullpen ERA in recent weeks is just disgusting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you're right, and that's one aspect that I didn't really think about when kind of discussing this, and I was kind of mulling this around in my mind today because I'm actually working on a piece that I'm hoping to get out by this weekend about, who should we trade for, like out in the trade market, what are our biggest needs, and honestly, that's a good point, but I still think our biggest problem is the offense. And I think that we've got to do something there. Looking around at the different, maybe avenues or players that are available, Machado would be amazing. But you know what? We don't need to pay the price it's going to cost to get him. It's going to be too much. And I don't like paying for rentals like that. I think Donaldson has too many question marks. He's the name that's been floated out there. And I like Moustakas. I think that he would be good. But again, when you get Moustakas and put him at third, it's basically a lot like another Jed Jerko. I mean, you're not going to get the high average. You're going to get some home runs. The power's there. The guy that I like, honestly, is Jose Abreu. He's a decent average guy he's got home run power. He's gonna put a bat on the ball. And the best part about it is we can stick him at first and put Jose Martinez in right field and get Fowler out of the lineup. And I don't know if we offer Fowler in that deal and, eat half the contract. I mean, if we offer to eat half of his contract and, maybe, we send Wong and, a few other prospects, maybe it only takes 1 or 2 prospects with Wong and Fowler to get that done. I don't know. But that is the move that I would like to see the Cardinals make. I think it makes the most sense for us. I think the move makes sense for the White Sox as well. It allows them to load up on some players and really begin their rebuild. And it would be a solid bat to put in. And especially when you think about, DeYoung coming back. Can you imagine a lineup of Carpenter, Pham, Martinez, Ozuna, and then Abreu, followed by DeYoung and Molina? I mean, good grief. That would be an amazing lineup. I mean, it just would be. It'd be incredible.
Yeah, I kind of second that. I'm a big Jose Abreu fan. I think
as well.
He would be a beast there at first, and I think that he would be a very good get for the Cardinals. I can't. My only qualm, and I always say qualm, but my only objection there is that there's potential the White Sox may not want to move them. Given that the White Sox are really about a year or 2 years away, and probably going to be good next year. They're probably in the same boat as honestly, and Kyle Reese will tell you that they could be good this year if they made one move or called up one other guy to maybe be in the rotation or whatnot. They could be good now. And so that's kind of where I like Jose Abreu. I just don't know if it's logical because with the White Sox being so close to being competitive, he may be a player that they want to hold on to and build around a little bit better because honestly he's an elite talent in terms of a bat there. Now on our end, he's a little older. I believe he's around the same age as Jose Martinez, if I'm not
I
mistaken.
think he's 30. I think he's 30. And I've heard he's a great leader also in the locker room. I've heard
Yeah.
he's a great leader.
Yeah, but that'd be a great get for the Cardinals. I would assume that a trade for him would probably cost. Um, I would assume it would cost at least Hudson and or Gomber, and maybe a throw in here or there, maybe a Ponce de Leon or something like that.
Yeah, and honestly, I'd be comfortable with that. And I think we actually have enough. There's enough rotation depth that we've got. We've got enough, I would say, even major league ready outfielders in the minors, enough depth there to make that happen. And, the other thing is, like, I would rather pay the prospects for a proven known quantity in a guy like Abreu that's got a little bit more team control beyond just this 1 year rental that you would get with either, a Machado, a Donaldson, or a Moustakas, because all of those guys are only under contract through the end of this year. So it wouldn't be like you're selling the farm for rental. You'd be selling the farm, but you get a little bit more of a longer term investment on that. And if we really make it worthwhile to the White Sox, I mean, we've got the best, minor league system in the majors right now, or at least one of the best. So I think we've got plenty of talent to deal from. And I think it's a deal that makes sense for us. And I think we've got the pieces to make it happen. It's just, I know Mo's propensity to hang on to those pieces. He doesn't like to deal from that too often. But man, if there was a time for him to make that move and to dip into that well, I think it's now.
Yeah,
Right now I'm at the point where I would definitely dip into our stash of outfielders and try to move. With the way the last few weeks of the season have went, I don't know if I would dip into starting pitching and try to move a high end prospect that starts right now, just with only because the way Carlos has looked since he's been back has me a little bit worried. The injury to Waka, the re-injury of Reyes, of course. Those things have me a little nervous, and Weaver just can't seem to find it. He's not locating his fastball, which is causing him to need a third pitch that he throws really well, and he really only has two pitches that he throws well: the fastball and the changeup. And if he's not locating the fastball and doesn't have a third pitch, he just doesn't have anywhere to go. So right now, if I did dip into our pitching, I may deal Gomber. I wouldn't move Hudson right now because, for one, I'm gonna be at the game Monday, and Hudson might start Monday, guys. So let's wait till Tuesday at least. Let's closer to the deadline. I am hoping that I do get to see a Hudson debut Monday at the game. That would be fantastic. Um, That is, if we could, Stephen, you should somehow segue into me talking about Dakota Hudson right now because I was going to, and I've got these numbers written down and I've got to get them off my chest here.
sorry, I'm trying to look into because the Abreu talk has me concerned a little bit because that doesn't really help the defense a lot because you're still keeping uh, Carpenter at third. Um, and so offensively, that makes a whole lot of sense.
If Wong was included,
But
then technically Carpenter would go to second.
right,
If
and
Bryant's Wong, I'd
yeah,
goes in.
you would keep Jerko at third, And it would actually help improve the defense because what you're doing then is you're taking Martinez off of first base, putting Abreu there anyway. And honestly, the way Fowler's looked in right field, the defensive change there is negligible, in my opinion. So I actually think it upgrades both the offense and defense making a move like that.
Okay. Can I blow your guys' mind?
Sure.
I'm ready.
So, as of this season, at third base, Matt Carpenter has 7 defensive runs saved, and is a 1.4 has a 1.4 ultimate zone rating at third base. So he's better at third base than we think. It looks like that's just looking.
Even a broken clock is right twice a day. I mean, I've noticed this too. He has been pretty. I think we can all admit though that watching him throw from over there is a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, it is uncomfortable, but if I'm sticking him there and keeping Wong and also at the same time, having Jose Abreu at first base, I'm okay with it. I know second base has been his better of the two in the past, but hey, if he's getting it done somehow this year at third, then
I would rather have him at a corner than upper middle infield for sure. Like, if it came down to if I could choose exactly where everyone was at, I would definitely
and I think
rather have him at a corner.
We're seeing Wong continue to get the opportunity to play is because of his defense. Now he's hitting a little bit better lately, but his defense is just it's really, really good, and it's kind of like the managing quarterback. You don't take him out just because he's not out there throwing 35-yard touchdowns every other play. He's managing the situation at second base and is a cornerstone up the middle for the defense. And with your defense, with a different shortstop playing every night, it's important to have at least one stalwart up the middle, I think.
Yeah. Which is helpful when the pitchers are pitching the ball where it's hit on the ground. But the way they're pitching it right now, it doesn't really matter where Wong plays on the field. He's not going to catch it.
No, it's hard to play out on Clark Street. I don't know if they'll allow our outfielders to go stand out there.
Yeah, you want to talk about a defensive shift? How about that?
Yeah,
let's just put everybody over the fence.
You can't stand in the bullpen. Why not?
Well, Ozuna will just try to go back further. So.
Yeah. This team.
Oh, I had to put that out there.
It's so true. It's so true.
It's painful, but it's true. The truth hurts tonight.
It does. I wish, not to go back to Matheny, but if he could get this one little thing right for me, if he could figure out this is very simple. To platoon Bader and Fowler properly and right. It's a tiny thing, but just do it properly. Can't we just look at righty-lefty matchups and attempt that? If you're going to play both of them half the time anyway, it seems like there's been no rhyme or reason. Like, he's starting Bader against righties and lefties. He's starting Fowler against righties and lefties, and I'm just so confused.
I think he's confused.
Yeah, for sure. I know that. Yeah.
So I have I'm pretty much in agreement with you guys on the Fowler thing. Fowler does not need to be playing. It's bad. It's pretty abysmal right now. Like this is Brandon Moss in August bad. Like this is bad. This is Ty Wigginton bad. Like it's borderline time to cut bait on a player you just signed to a big contract last year. And I want to kind of cover two things. As a fan, it's natural for us to hate a player. It's natural. However, facing the Fowlers to the point where they deleted all their tweets and are not interacting with fans anymore is despicable. I cannot believe fans have gotten to that point on Twitter, and social media has gotten to that point. Not only that, and this was just a week after seeing what happened to Kelly Marie Tran and her Instagram. Um, Absolutely despicable that had to happen. But in the same regard, I hate that this is happening for Fowler. He's a great guy. He's a great person in the community. He's doing a great thing for St. Louis kids, and it really sucks that he's going through this. And it sucks to the organization they're having to potentially cut bait on this. But I want to talk about the average fan looking at this player. The average fan looks at this and say, "That was a stupid decision. You should have never signed it. Um, it was a bad move. You had all these outfielders in the system. Why did you sign it?" It's not true. We did not have all these outfielders in the system at the time he was signed. Bader was the only one of these guys that of Bader, O'Neill, Mercado. Bader was the only one known of. Bader was in Double A, I believe, at the time, and was just drafted a year beforehand. And so to sit here and say as a fan that, oh my goodness, they should have never done this, you're thinking a little short-sighted because the team had to make a move last offseason because the average fan would have complained that they made no moves in the offseason and let Fowler go sign with the Dodgers or whatever. And so it's 6 to 1, half dozen the other, in my opinion. Fowler was a good signing at the time. And and you're talking a little bit about the platooning of Bader and Fowler, and I agree with you to the point because Bader absolutely provides a defensive upgrade out in right field, absolutely. However, in my opinion, and this is just my thought process, Tyler O'Neill should be up on the major league roster right now. He should be getting his service time at right field, probably. If you have 7 games in a week, he should be starting 4 out of those 7 games in right field. Harrison Bader's not hitting. It's not. Him and Fowler are not getting the job done at all offensively. Bader contributes a hit probably every 20 at bats or 50 at bats or whatever it is. I don't know the stats, and I'm not looking at the stats, but just in reading the box score, Bader's not hitting as well, and so it's kind of a darned if you do, darned if you don't kind of situation because you're going to get an out whether you put a guy in there or not. And I understand where management is coming from that you've got to get Fowler going. If you get Fowler going, he's a really good player. And if Fowler, provides you the same thing he provided for, 4 months out of the season last season, hey, you'll take it. You'll take it. He was leading the team in homers at one point last season. He was the best hitter on the team for a little while. So I get it, the aspect that Bader should be out there and because Fowler's not doing it, but Bader's not doing it as well. And right now, right field is kind of a bit of a hole. And in my opinion, Tyler O'Neill needs to be up and he needs to be playing out there and giving this team a shot to have a bat that is consistent out there and right.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And more to that, too, I agree 100% with your point about the Fowlers. I think that, and I'm on record as saying I don't think Fowler should be playing. I'm even on record here just a few minutes ago saying maybe we trade him. It's not that I don't like Fowler as a person. Fowler is a great guy, and the stuff that's been said to force them to get off of social media, guys, come on. Cardinal Nation, we are the best fans in baseball. Let's act like it. Let's not demean a person, and attack him personally just based on his play. His play says nothing to him as a person. The same thing as Matheny. We go off on Matheny being a manager, but as a person and as a guy, there's few better than Mike Matheny. To be honest, he is a really good guy and a nice guy, and does a lot, and so does Fowler. And as much as I'd love to see him, perform more, for me, that's where it ends. Like his performance hasn't been up to par, and I'd love to see him. There's nothing that I would love more than to see him get going and us not have to make any trades. That would be fantastic. But at the same time, like you got to win. And if winning means that he's not playing, then that's what it means. But yeah, Stephen, you're absolutely right. Like, that has no place whatsoever in Cardinal Nation, and anyone that participated in that, honestly, should be ashamed to call themselves Cardinals fans. And if the Fowlers ever hear this, and I don't know that they ever will, but if they ever do, I want them to know, from me to them, that, we love you guys. You're great for the city, and you're great in this clubhouse, Dex, and I'll be your bud all day long.
Absolutely.
It's, in a way, it's refreshing to see a husband and wife like them be on social media and talk about what they talk about. It's refreshing. She's a hilarious follow.
Oh, she's so funny.
She's probably my favorite follow in all of Cardinals Nation, or was until recently. But I agree with you 100% on not only the social media stuff with Fowler, but the signing. I was also a proponent of the signing. A lot said, "Oh, that's too much money." I thought it was average money for an average player, average in the outfield, average with the bat, but really high OBP. I believe the year before we signed him and Matt Carpenter were both in like the top 6 or 7 in the National League in walks. So I'm thinking is okay, Fowler and Matt Carpenter come up, they set the table, and we get some guys to bring them in. So I was good with the signing. As you guys both know, I'm a huge Dex fan. I've got a bunch of his apparel and a jersey, and I just think he's an all around nice guy and really good in the clubhouse. Seems like a really good teammate. I want him to get it going. I wish I wish him the best. I adamantly disagree with Steven about Harrison Bader. He is an everyday right fielder. His WAR is like 3rd or 4th on the team right now, like with what little bat he's had, which is crazy. Statistically, he's a top 3 outfielder in all of the major leagues defense, which is right there. That is enough for me to play him his range. But you'll notice that his numbers over the few weeks span when we were spelling some of our outfielders and when we had a few injuries with Pham and Fowler, when that was all going on, Bader kind of went on a hot streak. His slugging percentage went up, his on-base percentage went up, which was great. I think there's something there. I also think he has game-changing speed. Like, his speed changes the game, and that's what sells me on him being every day. Is that no matter how poor if his bat doesn't come all the way around, he can always do something with his legs. He can always lay down a bunt. He can Billy Hamilton his way on base. I believe he's got the 6th or 7th fastest sprint speed in the major leagues via StatCast, which is pretty amazing stuff. I believe in Bader pretty hardcore. At the same time, as I just said, I'm a big Dexter Fowler guy. That's why I'm kind of behind. I guess I'm kind of doing something I gripe about Matheny doing, and I'm like trying to not hurt his feelings by even wanting them to platoon him. But I'm like Matheny. I want him to get. I'm like every Cardinal fan. I want him to get it going. I want all my guys to get it going. I want our team to have it going all the time. But until that happens, I do think it's Bader time, or even as you said, Steven, if once we get DeYoung healthy, maybe send down Munoz and bring up O'Neill and start letting O'Neill spell these guys as well and see if he can really get the bat going. So, but as much as I love Dex, whether it's time to move all the way on or not, it's time for something to change. And I'm starting to see a little bit of the playtime decrease. So I think we're starting to see a bit of a change.
Yeah. And one more quick point, too. There is not a better smile in Major League Baseball than that of Dexter Fowler.
It's beautiful.
It's the best smile ever. Is it fair to say I have a man crush on Dexter Fowler because of his smile?
It is. I think we all do a little bit. We all do. It's okay. And that's okay to admit that.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Erik, I'm with you, man. I like Bader as well. I just, if he's going to play, I mean, you need more consistency out of his bat as well. And that goes for the whole team. Like, Pham had that horrible month and a half stretch. Where it was starting to bring into question like whether or not he was viable enough to stay out where he is. And so there's a lot of questions with the offense right now. It's not good. We're looking at bringing in potentially other players to help get things better. But now we're starting to see the pitching unravel. What was the last time that we've had a quality start?
Feels like forever.
Flaherty.
Yeah, it was.
Flaherty's last outing was a quality start.
Yeah.
So it's been a while. 4 starts at least. No, Flaherty went 5 innings, so that's not even a
Yeah, it
quality
wasn't
start.
a quality start.
So I don't know. It is.
And was it all the way back to that Waka almost no like 2 weeks ago? Because that's like the last thing I remember. The last time I remember a pitcher going
That's
deep.
the only thing I can think of. You lost 2 out of 3 to the Cubs. You lost 2 out of 3 to every other team. It's almost as they've only won like 3 out of their last 17 series or something like that, which that seems a little odd. I don't know if that's correct or not. It seems like a lot of series loss in it.
Yeah, it seems like our record would be a lot worse than that, as opposed to the 38 and 35 now after tonight's loss.
Yeah, I believe so. 38-35. It's crazy. We're going into Cleveland here coming up, and their record, I think they're only like 2 games better than us, or 3, maybe 40 or 41 wins. So
I just know that we're going to catch Kluber and
oh yeah, I'll be there.
Like we're going to catch those guys. And we're going to get swept.
I can't decide if I'm excited that I get to see Corey Kluber pitch, because that would be great. I mean, great pitcher. I love Corey Kluber. It'll be fun to watch him pitch. Or if it's going to be terrible watching him strike out 23 Cardinals-ish. I know. I don't know if you guys remember 2 years ago, he struck out 18, I think it was, 18, which is the most in his career. That was against us, like the only time he's ever faced us. So
yeah, it was not good. Not good
goodness.
at all.
Well, this ought to tell you how bad this team is. This team is so bad that for fantasy baseball every week, when it's time for to put in waiver claims, I look at the schedule and see who's pitching against the Cardinals so I can get strikeouts. I mean, it's that bad.
It's an easy way to rack up Ks. I agree. Yep. I've found myself doing some of the same. You can't start hardly any of our guys in fantasy. You can start Ozuna, Jose Martinez, and Jack Flaherty, and Jordan Hicks. I've got Jordan Hicks in a Roto League, Dynasty League, and now he's handy for holds and strikeouts. So, but if you don't have holds, then yeah, we have like 2 guys you can start in fantasy. It's so sad.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
speaking of our pitchers too, Stephen, and I don't know if you were going to segue to this or not, but do either of you guys find it interesting that the 3 guys we have on the DL right now, we're talking, 3 guys who will have been on the DL because Martinez obviously is back, but Martinez, Reyes, and Waka all dealing with oblique injuries. Like, it's the same injury getting these guys down. Like, does anybody else find that to be odd?
Oh, don't tell the pain guy. Don't tell the pain guy on Twitter. He will have to explain to you that these guys have been doing it wrong since they were 3.
Well, isn't it? No, hold on. Walker's got the oblique. He's the only one with the oblique injury.
They had a lat. One of the other 2 did have an oblique early though, and then it was a lat.
Yeah,
right
it's been a
immediately
lot
after.
for Carlos and for Reyes.
For Ray,
What
yeah,
was it a lat for Reyes?
Yeah,
Okay.
He had. I think he completely tore the lat muscle off.
For Carlos, it was the oblique first, and then the lat. And now I'm starting to think that the lat is. Oh, I hope it's not Alex Reyes lat, but that was kind of I've heard that's extremely rare. What happened to Reyes, the lat there? But I'm sure that there is some sort of pattern because I've noticed not just with us, there has been a lot of lat strains, tears, pulls this whole season with half the pitchers on my fantasy team for one thing, and it's kind of a league-wide thing. I don't know if maybe it's like the new Tommy Johns, maybe it's the new thing that we're doing to our pitchers. I don't know.
What is it that Kershaw went down with?
Something. First, it was his back, and I'm not sure what it is now. I can't remember.
I thought it was something to do with his shoulder. So back, shoulder, that would be the same area. So
he's going to be back this weekend versus the Mets. And then you've got Robbie Ray will be back here really soon. We got some good MLB pitching. A lot of National League teams aren't even what they're going to be yet. You know,
yeah.
we're just now seeing the Diamondbacks get hot out west.
Yeah.
As to where a few weeks ago we thought maybe Paul Goldschmidt might be a trade target for teams. Now it's looking like the Diamondbacks are going to want to add at the deadline, and because I know I would add. They get AJ Pollock and Robbie Ray back, and look out, that's a good team right there. But
absolutely,
it just worries me about what we're doing even more, and Mo needs this trade deadline. He needs to hit this one. He needs to get this one right, or needs a shakeup that works out, a firing of Mabry or a Matheny or whatever, some form of shakeup that works out. And I think he could sway Cardinal Nation back to his side, because I think he's losing some people right now. I think people are a little fed up after the last couple of years and just no improvement in the fundamentals. So,
So pitching has been bad lately on the starting side. The bullpen is always in question. Hicks has found it. Allen might have found it after two successful outings. He's looked good. I'd be interested to take a look at the video and see side-by-side comparison from when he was here before and where he is now, to see if there's something mechanically that you can pick up to see what he's done to differentiate himself. So, that's a good sign to see him doing well there. We got and one of the frustrating things this season has been calling the pitchers and not using them. I went on a rant last week with Brian about Mike Myers. Gosh dang it, use the guy. God, use him. Like he's effective. Like he's been effective up here. He's been effective in Memphis. Use him. He had this big spring, and we were talking about it on our first podcast. Now, hey, he's going to be a great addition, and he's going to do this. And he's been picking on the Memphis Trio. Why? Like, you haven't even given him a shot to see whether or not he's legitimate or not. So, I'm just hoping that he sticks around. That you're going to see a little bit more Gomer. You're going to see a little bit more stretching of Hicks and Norris. And there's a train. But the bullpen, I think that there's a path to make the bullpen better. I think that Radhand would be a great addition, but I think that's too costly. And I don't want to see sitting here and I don't want to make any moves. I want to keep all my prospects. No, I would rather save the prospects for a bat that is controllable, like a Rayu. I would rather have to give up a top prospect or something of that nature, which I was reading apparently beforehand, that the target for the Padres is a young major league ready player. So I don't really know that the Cardinals have that. I mean, Caldy Young would be the best example there that I could think of. I don't think Harrison Bader or O'Neill would get it done, because
Munoz.
The player that you're not going to throw out.
I mean, you're not going to get hand for Munoz, but I think you could throw him in there with something else.
But the player that apparently they made the comparison or made the recommendation of the Red Sox was Rafael Devers, and if Hand is fetching Rafael Devers, you don't have a chance as the Cardinals.
It's sad that he's one of Boston's worst hitters.
But he's a rookie.
He's only hitting like 245, but he's got 9 home runs, 35 RBIs or whatever it is. Yeah. He's one of their worst hitters, and to me that would be steep, I guess.
Yeah, that'd be very steep. Considering he's controllable, he's young,
Yeah.
Got a lot of power.
He's got a lot of power. And from what I've heard, he's a superstar in the making. I was hoping that the Cardinals could have acquired him last season for somebody because the Red Sox were looking for, I think it was immediate third base help, and Durko and others had been put out there. I would take endeavors all day.
That would have been great.
But anyways, I digress. I don't know that Hand is viable for the first team just because of the cost. And look at what we have done. We have done with all these relievers that we've acquired. Cecil's bad. Holland has been bad. Leon is gone. Supposedly on his way back though. Gregerson is, who knows. He's potentially out for a while. So it's not been good for the Cardinals in acquiring relievers. And so I'd almost rather than pick up a guy off the waiver wire come August than make a big trade for a guy like Brad Hand. But bullpen might need a little bit of a boost here coming soon. But properly structured, I think this bullpen is good.
Yeah.
If you use Gomber, after the starter or kind of that Lions role. Lions used to always come out and be your first guy out of the bullpen. Use Gomber effectively. You don't have Bowman to abuse anymore, thankfully. See if you've got something out of Holland. If Holland is good, use him in the 7th or 8th and kind of intermix him in Hicks. And you've got Norris in the 9th. You've got Leon potentially coming back. And believe it or not, Leon is actually pretty good. If you get Leon back at a healthy rate, you might have something there.
Yeah, I liked Leon before he went down. I was a Leon fan. I liked that acquisition a lot. I do think that with the bullpen, I think we should, before the deadline in the next month, look internally for solutions first, because I do believe we have 3 guys that it doesn't solve necessarily the lefty problem, but we've got 3 guys in Memphis that are rocking. Dakota Hudson, we talked about, in 13 games started, 9-2, 2.13 ERA, which leads the PCL, I believe. 1.3 with strikeouts to walks, 62 to 31. Needs to get his walks down a little bit, but he's got progressively better as the seasons went on. In his 3 starts in June, 0.45 ERA. So thus far, I mean, the guy has just been lights out. And then you've got Helsley. Ryan Helsley went on the DL here a few weeks ago with, I believe they just called it shoulder fatigue, was what they called it. So I think he's either just now back or coming back in the next few days. And in the 3 starts before Helsley went down, he went 7 innings, all 3, 9 strikeouts, 10 strikeouts. He allowed 3 total runs in those 3 starts. The 10 strikeout game was a shutout. I mean, there's a couple solutions there. And then to your point, Stephen, calling guys up and not using them, we called up Ponce. Which was very, very heartwarming for one, just to see him come back from the devastating comebacker last year, that injury, which was just awful, and to make it to this level, because not just maybe because it's a great story, but because he pitched his way here. I mean, his numbers in the minors this season have been great. So I hated to see him get sent back down without getting the opportunity to pitch and see what major league hitters could do against him. So just some ideas coming up on the deadline. Maybe we should give one of these 3 guys a trial run here before it's too late to acquire somebody or even attempt to. But as you were saying, Stephen, I don't know exactly what we have because the poor management of the bullpen, to be honest. So I don't know where we're at there.
Yeah. Yeah, and these guys need a shot for sure. And when you're talking about their numbers specifically, you got to keep in mind too, the PCL is a hitters league, and these guys are dominating. So there's something there. Obviously, they're just not getting a real chance to show it at the major league level, and I think it's a mistake.
I agree.
It's guys, it's just been a rough 20 days. 21 days of Cardinals baseball, 3 weeks of Cardinals baseball. It's been rough. This team is in a bind. And you know what? Some shoe is going to have to drop eventually, whether that be a trade, or whether that be a downing of the manager, or whatever it may be. Something's going to have to go. And it's time for stuff to be happening. If they lose another series, something's got to happen. Somebody's got to go. Something. And you can't just sit here and idly wait for things to happen in front of you. You've got to make the moves, and you've got to be aware of what's going on. So, guys, we're kind of running into a time crunch here, and I want to go ahead and give you guys one last thought on what you expect to be happening over the next week, and just kind of go from there.
All right. I guess my one thought is they've got to figure out what's wrong with Carlos. To me, it's really reminiscent of when Waino came back on, excuse the pun, but on the heels of the Achilles injury. He just didn't look like himself. Looked like he was kind of overcompensating or protecting himself. I don't know if that's what Carlos is doing and why he's looked so horrible in his past couple starts after coming off the DL. But I think that's probably it. And a lot can be fixed if Carlos is right. I mean, when he's right, he's I put him right up there with the top pitchers in the league, not just the league but in all of the majors. And so they've got to figure out what's wrong with Carlos and get him right again. And then I think once the rotation is anchored again like that, I think we can really make a push. And I'm really hoping that they make that big move to get a bat and improve this offense.
Yeah.
Well, I could definitely agree with you there with Carlos, Brian. I think that would be probably at the top of my list as well. Getting your ace right, making sure your ace is the Carlos that we all have come to love and watch pitch. I would say over the next few weeks, what I would like to see is maybe a conversation between Jose Martinez, Tommy Pham, Mark, Ozuna, maybe even Yachty, these top 4 or 5 guys, and decide when they're going to be active offensively, maybe at the same time. Because as Steven said early on,
you get ahead. I'm going to be next week.
Maybe that does take a Mabry firing, but they are all individually great talents, and we have all seen flashes of greatness from enough flashes that they're all sitting around an 800 OPS, which is that's great. Jose around a 900, so even better. But they just can't all do it at the same time, and it's baffling to me. And it's the one thing that I believe if there is a quick fix to this, that's what I believe it would be, is those 4 or 5 guys hitting at the same time. And outside of that, I'm with Brian on the giving Carlos a checkup as well. If it takes another 10-day DL or another rehab start or 2 or something to get right, then that's what it takes. But we have to get our ace right. So,
Yeah. Perfectly said, guys. I'm going to leave you guys with this. Dan Buffa tweeted this out about 45 minutes ago. The hashtag STL Cards with 61 errors on the season. They can't run the bases. They don't hit doubles. They don't draw walks. Starters don't go deep into games. This is not going well. It's June 21st. A lot of season left. Prepare yourself. I think that sums up things perfectly.
What a depressing way to end this, Stephen. Now I feel worse. He's not wrong, though. He's
right.
not wrong.
No, he's not. He really is. He hit the nail on the head there. It's the truth.
I think
done.
If the things that Brian and I just said don't come to fruition or don't turn out positively, I think the next step would be to figure out whether we are buyers or sellers at the trade deadline. We're all talking about who we going to go after. Maybe we're talking about who we're going to deal for prospects or for the future. So, it's sad. We've never seen a full-on rebuild like that, and I would hate to see it. The 90s were an incredibly sad time for me as a child, watching the Astros and the Braves whip our butts every year. So, but yeah, maybe that's the next step, deciding whether we're buyers or sellers. So, yeah.
Yep.
All right. Thanks, guys. We appreciate you coming on. We appreciate you listening. Please, if you're on YouTube, iTunes, please subscribe. We're going to try to get this out to as many people as possible. Still got the opportunity to win tickets in the future once we do get to 100 subscribers on YouTube. So appreciate the follow. Appreciate your subscription. Appreciate you listening. For Brian Swope, Erik Neff, and myself, this is the STL Hat Trick St. Louis Cardinals podcast. You have a wonderful rest of your week, and let's hope the Cardinals start to win some baseball.